A couple of months ago, I successfully completed the National Three Peaks Challenge, and at the end of that video, I said at some point in the future, I was going to do a follow-up video with some tips and advice which should hopefully increase your chances of successfully completing the challenge. If that's something you're thinking of doing, or you're unsure whether you should even attempt it or not, then you've clicked on the right video. So if you're new to the channel, then I'm Liam. And until a couple of years ago, I wasn't exactly the most adventurous person, to be honest. I was into a different kind of greenery, if you get my drift. And now I'm into mooching about on mountains and messing about in tents. And since starting my YouTube channel a couple of years ago, I've been wanting to challenge myself. So basically what I'm trying to say is I'm not the most experienced hiker, longevity-wise. I've not been doing this for many years. But what I have done is quite a lot in a short period of time. But what I certainly do is have a go and get shit done. And that's why I decided to take on the Three Peaks Challenge. Please keep watching till the end of the video, because if you are interested in attempting this next year, then I might be able to personally help you with that. But for now, let's crack on with video.
What is the Three Peaks Challenge?
The Three Peaks Challenge is basically summiting Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in Scotland, Scafell Pike, the highest mountain in England, and Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales, and all within 24 hours. So I'm going to start off with the stuff that you can plan before starting the actual hike.
What time of year should I do it?
You're going to need to decide when is the best time of year to do it. And I'm going to suggest as closest to summer as possible. Not just because hopefully you're going to have better weather, but mainly because the daylight hours are going to be longer. And because you're literally doing 3 mountains in 24 hours, the chances are you're going to be doing some form of hiking in the dark. So obviously by doing it in the summer, you're increasing your daylight hiking hours.
What order should I do the mountains?
I suggest doing Ben Nevis first, followed by Scafell Pike, then Snowdon. The reason being, Ben Nevis is the highest mountain of the 3, but it's also the longest hiking distance. So it makes sense to do that while you're fresh. The only exception to that, I guess, if I lived in Scotland, then I might do Snowdon first. But that's only because you'd be doing Ben Nevis last, so you'd be closer to home at the end. But apart from that, I'd definitely say go Ben Nevis, Scafell Pike, Snowdon. In that order.
How long do we get for each mountain?
So if you break each mountain down, you're talking Ben Nevis 5 hours, Scafell Pike 4 hours, and Snowdon 4 hours. That's 13 hours of hiking, which leaves 11 hours of driving. Obviously if you can do the mountains quicker, then that's going to increase your chances of completing it, especially the first 2, because then you know how long you've got left at the end to do Snowdon. All it takes is a traffic jam or something with your vehicle to go wrong and it's game over, innit? So the quicker you can do those first 2, the better chances you have of getting ahead of time and allowing for any potential driving delays.
What time should I start the challenge?
There is actually an official Three Peaks website, and it gives you like 3 different options of starting time. I went against all those times and I had my reasons, and I decided to start at 9:30 in the morning. But what you are going to need to do is obviously get you sent to Fort William the day before the challenge. Stay in a B&B somewhere or a hotel, or do what I did and stay in your car if it's suitable for sleeping in, because you are going to need a good night's sleep. There is some people that suggest starting later on in the day, and I think that does help avoid some traffic, but I don't think that's a good idea personally. If you're starting later on in the day, unless you've managed to sleep through that day, you're just going to be more tired. It makes sense to me. Oh, this is what happens when you're filming. Someone at the front door. This has happened more than once, this. Don't know who it is. Anyway, if you start later on in the day, unless you've had some sleep, obviously you're going to be knackered, aren't you? You're going to be awake for 24 hours as it is, at least. So you might as well start at 9:30, get up at 7:30 or whatever, get yourself some brekkie, make sure wherever your hotel is or wherever you're parked, it's not too far from the Glen Nevis car park, and then that way you're likely to be less tired because you won't have been awake for as long. Does that make sense to you? Makes sense to me, that. I'm going to read out some of the notes that I wrote down for the itinerary when I did the challenge. So 9:30 AM, start climbing Ben Nevis. I've put 5 hours max, so I need to be back by 2:30 p.m. This is maximum. Then Glen Nevis to Wasdale, 5 hours 30, 260 miles. So if I start climbing Scafell Pike at 8 p.m, I've given myself 4 hours 30 minutes. I need to be back by 12:30 a.m. I will then drive to Wales, 215 miles, which should take 4 hours 30 minutes. I can now start climbing Snowdon at 5 a.m. It gives me 4.5 hours to be finished by 9:30 a.m. Now these times are actually completely different to how the challenge ended up going. Things change. I did the first 2 mountains a little bit quicker, so obviously those times aren't bang on, but that were my guide to ensure that I completed it in time. Well, I touched on it there a little bit, but this brings me on to the next question.
Which route should I take up each mountain?
For Ben Nevis, it's pretty simple. There's only really one route, well not really, there is only one route up Ben Nevis that's suitable for the Three Peaks Challenge. Anyone that tells you any different must either be Superman or a crackhead, so ignore them. So you wouldn't be going up the pony track or the mountain track or the tourist track, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same track. I'm not the biggest fan of using the name tourist track, to be honest, because that sort of makes it sound like it's easy, and it's not, especially if you don't do this stuff often. And we're all tourists anyway, aren't we, really? But anyway, so you want to be going up the mountain track, and that begins at the Glen Nevis Visitor Centre. For Scafell Pike, I'm going to say you've got two options for this. You can either start from Seathwaite or start from Wasdale. The drive to Seathwaite is shorter and quicker, but the hike is longer. So it sort of works out the same anyway. The big difference for me is, if you were to go by my schedule, you will be doing some of Scafell Pike in the dark. And I think personally, the track from Wasdale is a lot easier to navigate than the one from Seathwaite. The terrain is a lot better. The paths are a lot more well built. So if you was to hike either of those two in the dark, I think the one from Wasdale would certainly be easier. And that path has got various names. I think you can call it the Brown Tongue Path, or once again, I think they call it the Tourist Path, to be honest. And last, but by no means least, is Snowdon. And I've just realised I'm supposed to be calling it Widfa, because that is the correct name of Snowdon these days, apparently. But I've been calling it Snowdon since the start of the video, so I'm going to continue to. And once again, like Scafell Pike, there is two suitable starting points for Snowdon. One being Llanberis, which is the most popular path. Same again, the tourist path. It's the easiest path navigation wise and terrain wise, I'd say. The path is a lot more well built. But I'd recommend starting from the Penny Pass car park and going up either the pig track or the miners track. Both of those start at the same car park. You could even go up the pig track, down the miners track, or vice versa. The way I went up was up the pig, down the pig. For the simple reason being, it's the shortest distance wise in miles, and those little extra miles certainly add up, especially when it's your third mountain in 24 hours. So I'd suggest doing the pig track up and the pig track down. Apparently, I say apparently, I've done the miners track. It is a little easier on the knees because there is a sort of a short, sharp, steep section, not steep, but steeper, and then it's quite flat and windy for a longer distance, so it takes less toll on your knees. But I'd say time-wise, if you're in a bit of a rush, up the pig, down the pig.
Where to park and how much does it cost?
Well, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not gonna lie, parking is very expensive for this challenge, especially for me because I did it all solo. So for Ben Nevis, you want to be parking at the Glen Nevis, so Ben Nevis from Glen Nevis Visitor Centre. And the cost for that, when I did it, obviously prices are only going to go up, up and up. They only ever go one way. And that was £8 all day. Well, I think you can pay £2 per hour. So obviously it works out cheaper to just pay the £8 and book that all day. There is card machines and coin machines. It's always worth taking both, just in case any of the machines are out. For Scafell Pike, you've got a couple of options. If you was to do the Seathwaite route, then there's free parking along the side of the road. If that is full, which I don't think it will be, especially if you're doing the Three Peaks Challenge, depending on what time you arrive, then you can pay the farmer. I think you'd just be able to give him a £5 or something. If you were just doing the Three Peaks Challenge and you want staying overnight. So free parking at Seathwaite. But from where I started, Wasdale, you've got a couple options again. So you can either park at the green outside the Wasdale Head Inn pub, and that is free. I think there's a little donation box. Slap a couple quid in there if you can, unless you're a tight bastard. But I parked in the National Trust Lake Head car park. That was £9. You think that's bad? Wait to hear about the next one. It's worth noting as well that the Lake Head car park, I'd say, is at least 5 minutes closer. I know that might not seem a lot, but obviously 5 minutes both ways, 10 minutes, that could be the difference between passing or failing the challenge. Don't worry about failing the challenge, I don't like that word either, failing. You're not failing. If you don't do it in 24 hours, it is what it is, you've still done it. You just do it again another time. Right, let's chat about Snowdon. Parking for Snowdon, eh? Oh, it's painful. It's painful because of the price. So between March and October, if you're wanting to park at the Penny Pass car park where I parked, you've got to pre-book it. And guess how much it costs? You might already know. £20. 20 notes to park for something that you're going to be up and down within hopefully 4 hours. That's mental. So it's not cheap doing this challenge, like I say, especially if you're doing it by yourself. The other options are parking in Llanberis. I've never paid for parking in Llanberis because I know of a couple of free spots, but I wouldn't want to be hiking up Snowdon from those free spots, if you know what I mean. Not on the Three Peaks Challenge anyway, just for time reasons, it'd take far too long. And it is worth adding that people have actually parked down in Llanberis and then got the bus up to the Penny Pass car park. But to be honest with you, I couldn't think of anything worse than relying on public transport when you're trying to complete a challenge that involves time. So although it is the most expensive option, I'm just going to suggest pre-book your parking for the Penny Pass car park and be done with it.
Can it be done alone, or should I do it as part of a group?
It can be done alone, because I did it alone, but I strongly advise against doing that, to be honest, mainly for safety reasons. If you are wanting to do the hike alone, then at the very least I recommend hiring a driver, paying one of your mates or a family member. Just say to them, listen, I'll pay you a day's wage, I need you to drive me from Scotland to England to Wales. They can just chill out in the car, get some sleep whilst you do the hiking, and then when they do the driving, you might be able to get some sleep. Because even now, looking back, thinking about it, doing it alone and unsupported like I did were a stupid idea, really. Quite dangerous. You've got to think you're hiking for 11 hours, driving for 13 hours. Yeah, you get a break in between the driving, but on that break you're tackling a mountain, so it's hardly a break, and you're awake for 24 hours. So it is just pure exhaustion, and driving whilst tired is not the one, let's be honest. It's not good for anyone. So I'd recommend maybe putting together a little team, you and a small group of mates, if you're all into hiking and that, and then just get it done yourself. You could even, I guess you could share the driving. If one of you did the drive from one mountain to the next whilst the other ones slept, then I guess they could drive next time, take it in turns or whatever. I'm not sure. It's probably better to just all chip in and pay for a driver if you're going to do it that way. There is companies as well that do this, where you can literally pay them. They will take you to the mountain, drop you off, you fly up, you come back down, you can go to sleep. They've usually got a minibus or something, and just do it that way. That does seem like the safest option, and some of them even have like mountain leaders that come up the mountain with you I think a lot of them will do if it's an actual hiking company. So you and a group of mates could just sign up to one of these companies and they'll take care of all the logistics for you. Or if you were solo and you wanted to do it and you didn't have any mates that wanted to do it with you, then you could jump on one of these companies as well. The only problem then for me personally, you don't know who you're going to be doing the hike with. So people could be struggling, man. So it could be down to someone else that you've not done the challenge. I know that could be the same if you're with your mates, but you know your mates. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Obviously you're going to turn up on the day with complete strangers, so you don't know their ability. Either way, it's worth thinking about and just deciding which you think works best for you.
What should I wear?
Right, let's get into what to wear then. So if you're already a hiker, or you like to spend time walking about in the mountains, I guess that's a hiker, or you go camping or running or whatever, then I guess just wear what you think's most comfortable. You don't want to be wearing stuff like joggers and cotton t-shirts or all like that. Basically just standard procedure when it comes to hiking. So stick to your sort of polyester base layers. Polyester base layers. And obviously depending on the temperature and the weather, it can be done in shorts. I certainly recommend at least bringing some leggings as well. Waterproofs are a must. No matter what the forecast says, bring some lightweight waterproofs with you, just in your day pack, just in case, because you could be up Ben Nevis, absolutely red as, lovely summer's day. When you get to Scafell Pike and it's 10 o'clock at night, it could be pissing it down, torrential rain, freezing. You've basically got to expect the unexpected with these mountains. And if you've seen my video, the weather was shocking on Ben Nevis. Non-stop rain really. I did get nice weather on Scafell Pike, full on t-shirt weather, and then Snowdon. The less said about that the better. Grim. Heavy winds and just non-stop rain from start to finish. From the moment I set off from the car park to the moment I returned to the car park. And you do need to be packing some form of warm layer as well, whether that's a lightweight down jacket or some fleeces or whatever, or even both, because if you get to the summit and you want a 10-15 minute break, which I don't advise, who has breaks, then you're going to get cold pretty quickly, especially if you've been sweating whilst you're hiking and the temperature isn't that warm on the summit. Don't forget you can be in middle of June and there can be snow on Ben Nevis, so it's something worth considering. Bring in some warm gear just in case. So let's talk about probably, this could be the make or break in the entire challenge, and that is your feet, your footwear. So in fact I'm actually wearing the same pair of kicks that I wore when I did the challenge. And that's my Ultra Lone Peak 7s. Now there's a big decision to make. Well, it's not a big decision, it's whatever you're most comfortable with. But basically between boots and trail runners. A lot of people will say if you're not that experienced with the hiking, especially in the mountains, on the boulder fields and all that lot, which you are going to experience, then go for boots. But for me, boots are just a bit heavy and clunky, and when you're doing like a long distance, 20 odd miles or whatever it is, you certainly start to feel that weight. But I have done quite a lot of hiking in the trail runners prior to doing this challenge. So basically, cut a long story short, you want to be hiking in what you're most comfortable hiking in. Don't buy a brand new pair of boots and then go do this challenge. Get plenty of miles in them boots, break them in. And it's worth mentioning socks as well. I swear by 2 pairs of socks. No matter what the weather, even if it's pure red or outside, I always wear toe sock liners by a company called Injinji. No affiliation with them, that's just what I recommend. So they're just really thin toe sock liners. If you wear toe socks for the first time, they feel a bit strange, but you get used to them. And then that just stops the rubbing in between the toes, which should eliminate blisters in between the toes. Well, I can confirm I've never had a blister in between my toes since wearing these socks, and that's where I used to get sort of friction rubbing before wearing these socks. And then over the top of those socks, I wear, same again what I've got on now, darn tough merino wool socks. Same again, no affiliation. That's just a brand that I recommend. You also want to be bringing spare pairs of socks as well to change into. What I did was, after each mountain, just put on a fresh pair of socks. Honestly, it makes a world of difference. I did the same with the t-shirts as well. I brought 2 spare t-shirts so that after each mountain, I can change into a fresh one. It just makes you feel nice and fresh, so you're not doing that journey in a sweaty t-shirt. There's only so many times you can walk around in circles around that same small nature reserve talking to the camera without people wondering what the hell you're up to. So excuse the road noise for a second. I'm just gonna head to cricket field not far from my house. It's a shame to see pubs like this, isn't it, these days? Well, cricket field's having its grass cut, so I don't think we'll be going on there today. So let's just mission across these farmers' fields. I get lost round here though, so we'll see where we end up. So anyway, next question.
What gear do I need to bring with me?
Equipment wise, the stuff you need to bring with you, if you're a general hiker out in mountains, then you should be bringing this stuff with you anyway. I'm talking power bank. You do not want your phone to be dying whilst you're up on a mountain, especially if, like me and like most, I'm going to say most people that are hiking these days, you don't rely on maps, as in physical maps. I don't know how to use a compass and map, or map and compass, so it's pointless me taking one. Do you know what I mean? It could be good to learn, maybe, I've said it before. I may get around to learning one day, I'm sure it can't be that difficult, but what I rely on is this bad boy, my phone. So what you want to do, you want to get the routes downloaded on your phone so that they're available for offline use whilst navigating. Do not rely on Google Maps. Get an actual designated hiking app, so Footpath, OS Maps, All Trails, Komoot, Hiker. There's so many to choose from these days, and you don't need to pay for them. You just download a few of them, see which one you prefer. Just make sure you've got some practice hiking around your local area, following the map, checking where you are on the location, just so that you're familiar with it before tackling some of these mountains. So basically, download the route, make sure they are downloaded for offline use, because although you can get signal on most of these mountains, you can't guarantee it all the time. And it'd be typical that when you needed the signal, you didn't have any. That would be typical. So, as well as power banks, let's stick with electronics. I'm just gonna sit on this wall a little minute. I don't know where I'm walking to yet. So electronics, you're gonna need a head torch. If you're doing it solo like I did, then I'd get 2 head torches. It's best to have a backup. You don't want your head torch running out or actually breaking whilst you're up on a mountain in the dark. That's not the one. So safety first, 2 head torches. Obviously if you're in a group and there's like 4 of you, as long as you've all got a head torch each, then you should be fine, you should be cushy. I'd also recommend bringing a few hiking essentials. These are just your standard stuff that you want to be bringing. Plasters, and I definitely recommend blister plasters as well. There's nothing worse than getting a big fat blister whilst you're hiking and not having anything to cover it over with. That could literally be make or break. Trust me, look after your feet. So as well as the plasters, you do want to be bringing some form of basic first aid kit, I'd say. Don't be bringing all too crazy. If you don't know how to use it, there's no point in bringing it. But just basic stuff, whatever you'd find in a first aid kit. You might even want to bring a water filter as well, just in case you don't bring enough water whilst you're on the mountain. There's quite a few opportunities where you can just literally walk past, fill it up, and then just drink it as you walk in so that you're not wasting any time. So, trekking poles. I definitely brought trekking poles with me, but I didn't end up using them. I'd say even if you're not going to use them, it's worth bringing them. I know that might sound weird, but just in case, if you was to roll an ankle or twist an ankle or whatever, those trekking poles could help you get off that mountain safely, just to take a bit of that weight off your foot or whatever and just get you down. And if your knees start aching, you could be coming down Scarfell Pike, your knees could be throbbing. Using those trekking poles will make a difference. It certainly will, just to take that weight off.
What about food and drinks?
Right, obviously you're not going to be having no 3-course gourmet meals or out on this trip. I certainly didn't anyway. But what you do need is to make sure you're just packing in plenty of calories. It made it a little bit more difficult for me because obviously I was doing the hiking and the driving. Whereas if someone was doing the driving, then you could maybe pack some sandwiches, some pasta, just stuff like that to eat between the mountains. Whilst you're on the mountains, I'd say just bring stuff like Mars bars, protein bars. You could even bring protein shakes or like meal replacement shakes or stuff like that. They'd certainly help. I brought one of them and I had one after each mountain. Just stuff like bananas, beef jerky, even Kendall mint cake. I'd say that'd be a good thing to bring. Anything that's just going to give you that quick little boost. Obviously you could bring stuff like trail mix and that. I remember doing a multi-day hike. First time I did, well the only time I've ever done, the Cumbria Way. And I brought loads of trail mix, but I find after a few mouthfuls, man, they just taste like crusty arseholes. So it's not for me. Not that I'd know what a crusty arsehole tastes like. And then for drinking, just plenty of water. You could even bring stuff like Lucozade Sport that are full of electrolytes. And I'd certainly recommend putting electrolytes in your water as well. Don't ask why, just do it. That's what I did. And it worked. So whatever it is, you want to have it ready and prepared so that when you set off for that mountain, bang, you grab your drinks, couple of litres or whatever, and then that's going to do you for that mountain. And then you can refill or grab some more bottles when you do the next mountain. I'd just buy a big pack of water per person and just take that on your trip. You are going to drink a lot. Whoa. Cows and that. You are going to be drinking a lot of water. I'm going to turn back round and go back that way. Can't be arsed with these cows today while I'm trying to record. Now I am presuming, I could be completely wrong, but I'm guessing that most of you watching this will already do some form of exercise, whether that be hiking, long distance walking, that's hiking again, isn't it? Well, hiking or walking or running or just something that means you're physically able to do this challenge, or at least have a good chance of doing this challenge. And if not, I'd recommend just getting some big mileage in the legs. It'd actually be ideal if you'd done each of these mountains separately, which is what I'd done first, because I wouldn't have tackled this, not on my own anyway, if I'd never done each one individually beforehand. Just so I sort of knew what I had to come up against, if that makes sense. So as long as you're physically able to complete it, the rest of it is all in the mind, man. It's all a mental challenge about just keeping going. Even if you're in a bit of pain, your knee might be hurting, or you might have some blisters, you just got to put one foot in front of the other and just crack on and just get it done. Just get that shit done. Take each mountain individually and just smash them to bits. Just do what you can anyway. And if you don't end up doing it, who cares? Honestly, who gives a fuck? As long as you've given it your best and you've cracked on, you can always come back and have another go. Right, I said further towards the beginning of this video that I had something to say about next year, about doing this. I'm up for doing it again, to be honest, but I'm not going to be doing it solo. So if I can get a little group of people together that are interested, mainly people that have never done it before, just so I can give them, well, I ain't giving them the experience, just so they can have the experience of doing it, then it'd be good to get a little group together. So let me know in the comments, and then depending on how many there is of us, I reckon we should just do it. Get it boxed off, hire a minibus or something, maybe even chip in and hire a driver, and just let's get it done. It'd just be good to do it with some other people as well, especially if they've never done it before. Remember guys, I'm no mountain leader, so I aren't heading this. I'm not in charge. I'm just saying, as a group of friends, we'll just go and have a nice little walk. Obviously there's no money involved or all stupid like that. This is just about getting out, having fun, splitting those parking charges, and we'll have a go at it. So if that sounds like something you're interested in doing, it will be next year now, because obviously kicking on, what are we in? October now or whatever. I don't even know what month it is. That's so bad, innit? Honestly. It's September, it's 18th of September and I'm thinking it's October. So yeah, obviously it's going to be next year now, it'll be next summer. But if people are interested, then make sure you let me know in comments. And there is probably so much more that I have to say, but most of this is just being off the dome, just making it up as I go along, as I'm out on my morning hike. So if you've not seen my 3 Peaks challenge video, then make sure you check it out. I'll put it right up there for you. So just click that right there. If you click down here, then you can subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out in a bit.